I'd like to welcome you to the regular council meeting held Tuesday, July 25th at 6 p.m. precisely. It's transmitted electronically and held via the council chambers that are temporarily located at 38 King George Street, Lake Cowichan, BC. Before we start, I would just like to acknowledge our gathering this evening on the unceded territory of the Sudax people, with thanks for their stewardship of these lands for millennia, for sharing these lands with us. Prior to starting this evening, if you do have those watching at home, you have a public input on anything on the agenda this evening, you can email those to general@lakecowichan.ca. Also, for questions on anything on the agenda this evening, that would be the same email address, general@lakecowichan.ca. If there are members of the public present during the meeting, we will afford them the opportunity for public input also after the meeting. So with that, I will look for any introduction of late items if applicable. Anyone? Councillor Frisbee?
Just under new business, 73 South Shore Road and 75 South Shore Road in terms of business license and parking concerns.
Addresses again, sorry,
73 South Shore and 75 South Shore.
We'll put that under C's, parking issues, etc. Anything else from councillors? Joseph?
Nothing.
Okay, looking for approval of the agenda as amended, moved by Councillor Frisbee, seconded by Councillor Bomaka. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Looking for adoption of minutes. We have the minutes of the annual general meeting held June 27th, 2023. Any errors or omissions that you have noted? Looking for a mover, Councillor Austin, seconded by Councillor Sandu. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Thank you. Also, the minutes of the regular meeting of council held June 27th, 2023. Again, any errors or omissions? Moved by Councillor Sandu, seconded by Councillor Frisbee. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Any business arising or unfinished business from that, Mr. Fernandez?
No.
Nothing there. We have no delegations or representations. Under correspondence, we have an action item from the Cowichan Valley Regional District. It's a new service establishment bylaw to regulate fireworks. Note in the verbiage of that there are two communities that have not opted into this. We have a separate fireworks bylaw within our own municipality as well, so it can be up to this group whether or not we would like to stay with our own or go with the regional one that they're currently looking to implement. So, Joseph.
Yeah, if I may, this council had given me direction to talk to the CA of the regional district some time ago, saying that we were not interested in part of this process. Now they're formally asking us if we want it. So we really have to tell them.
So we do need, according to the letter, a resolution stating that we would not like to participate in that, if that is the will of this body. I know that on some regional ones, for instance, the water restrictions are region-wide, so there isn't any discrepancies between adjacent governing bodies, for instance, ourselves, FNI. But with the fireworks bylaw, I think we still are prerogative to enforce whichever way we do choose. I don't believe that bylaw enforcement from the CBRD would be coming to our area to enforce bylaw infractions on the fireworks bylaw. But that's just my opinion. Councillor Sandu, please.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of this, but I also think we need to look at our enforcement, what following the bylaw, like what can we enforce and who can enforce it? Because if we only have our bylaw officer one day a week, it's kind of mute as to this bylaw in one hand, but I do like our own bylaw, and
Okay, any further? Councillor Gramacca.
I was just gonna ask our CAO, because I haven't looked at the CBRD one, but is our bylaw consistent with the CBRD's fireworks bylaw?
No, it's different, in the sense that we're not part of that regional function. But it's consistent with what other communities have done. Yes, consistent with other municipalities.
So we're consistent, so we can still have our own bylaw.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We currently have one that has been superseded in some people's opinion by the CBRD one, even though we do have one on the books that is previous to the one implemented at the CBRD. There's some confusion as to where the actual jurisdiction lies. Within that, there is verbiage on who should be in charge of, you have to permit within ours, et cetera, et cetera. So it is quite stringent as to who can let them off. It's just a matter of enforcement, and by the time they've been let off, it's too late. So, the RCMP have a similar problem during those times when fireworks are set off. 3 weeks before Halloween and 3 weeks after. So we're not the only ones that have problems with enforcement. But if you are looking to stay within our own bylaw, I need a resolution from council stating that we do not wish to participate in the CBRD bylaw 4509. Fireworks Regulation Service Establishment Bylaw, moved by Councillor Austin, seconded by Councillor Gramacka. Further input on that? Call the question.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Green.
So just on this, so our bylaws line up. We police as. If we were to join the CBRD one, we get extra enforcement and publications in the newspaper paid by them to enforce it. Like, what is the downside of being with the CBRD on this?
Well, the downside is they will insist that we enforce the bylaws.
Yeah.
So they don't come in and enforce, I mean, they might come by and talk to the businesses that sell fireworks. But at the end of the day, the enforcement is still out. We are part of the regional function, it will be still us. Enforcing.
And just further on that, so we will still be enforcing it no matter which way we go on the bylaw. But from what I understand, they have do a bit of advertising in their local paper and stuff to do that.
Some of that stuff, yeah.
So is there a negative to joining the CBRD?
There
Well,
would be
they-
financial implications by joining the service establishment, so it would be a continued taxation on that implementation. And with limited or no bylaw enforcement from that entity, I feel that the cost would not warrant joining that person.
And if we were to join this, do we know what the cost is?
Until they know all the participants, they would not know what the actual cost per 100,000 per household.
And that cost is to go towards enforcement?
It would go towards implementation of the bylaw and towards advertising and regulating the bylaw. So that would include enforcement, but not within the municipal boundaries, as they would have no jurisdiction within our municipal boundaries to do bylaw enforcement. Even though we would accompany the bylaw on a regional basis, no different than the water restrictions. They don't have enforcement within what the current stage 3 or stage 4 implementation is. That's for us to police and to monitor as expected.
In the local areas, are they all on board with this bylaw? So we're still getting enforcement around this? Very
I
odd.
believe that everybody except North Cowichan and Duncan and perhaps Ladysmith are not participants. So the municipalities have decided to stay within their own enforcement and bylaw accreditation. If that works. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
So September 25th, we have our public meeting. Can we put one of these things on the agenda also, discussion about fireworks, like Halloween's coming up, New Year's Eve is coming up. And just get some educational stuff out there for people that show up as to why we're against it and what what our bylaw states, so people understand we actually have a bylaw of fireworks.
Absolutely, direct that to staff for
Yes.
subject for that September meeting, and perhaps we can do some advertising prior to
Yes.
Halloween, just encouraging people to follow the bylaw. Do fireworks responsibly in an appropriate manner, in an appropriate location.
And may I just add to that, like with advertising, like now that the local citizens getting to our houses, I'm just wondering for things like this, if we could advertise in the Citizen, because I think it's important that not everybody buys the Gazette. And even though they're all the same, I think that now that we're getting a service to the door, that people will actually have it and read it. So,
I'm thinking that the local reporter that does work for the Gazette, once he views this video, will be reaching out for some clarification. Okay, I'll call the question on that. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries, and we'll send that off to the regional deputy. That's the, moving forward in our own dialogue. Next, we have council and committee reports. Committee of the whole, Councilor Austin.
Thank you. I'd like to move the minutes of Tuesday, July 11th, 2023, as presented. We had no resolutions, but we had some good wholesome discussions on several issues.
Okay, that's moved by Councilor Austin, seconded by Councilor Bomaka. And just if I may, I want to convey my appreciation to you for your words of thanks to the constable and those all involved in the house fire. I was not able to attend. I was out of the country representing the town at our sister city of Otaki, but I too would like to piggyback on that and thank all those involved who have done fundraising or had any impact on the family that has been impacted by that fire. A great big thank you to everybody involved. And with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you very much. Couch Lake Recreation, anything else for Sandy?
we have no meeting date set yet.
Thank you, Island Regional Library, Councilor Austin.
Thank you. Our next meeting is September, but I did attend the library today and I just missed 30 kids that were at the summer reading program. They come down from the arena and I just missed them by a few minutes, but that's okay. That 30 kids is quite a bit to be in that. And they're still doing the no fees, which is good for everybody, even adults. Because I can't always read a book within 3 weeks. I got a very thick one today. So I'm looking forward to the September meeting, which is probably going to be a hybrid meeting, some virtual and some in person.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's just for information, we'll stay with you on the Advisory Planning Commission.
Oh, the Advisory Planning Commission, it is, where the heck did I put everything? It is this Thursday. Let me just see, I got fingers here. I'll just tell you what's on the agenda, so you know, the OCP workshop venue, we're going, I think he's got September 23rd down here at the new municipal hall. That will be an open house for the OCP official community plan. Local government climate action report, reporting options to reduce corporate emissions. And I did talk to James today, he's showing me the list of all the different things that we use within this community, what our GHG is and how that's going. Synopsis of the OCB review and update. And I'm wondering if we can put forward, because a lot of people have been asking questions of short-term vacation rentals on the next agenda for the APC. Items from here go to the APC for discussion. And I do have quite a bit of information from a previous Airbnb owner that wanted to be legal and wanted us to do something. So it won't be on this agenda, but it will possibly be on the next one.
On a future APC agenda,
Yeah.
you'd like to see that?
Yeah.
Can you direct that towards staff to
Yeah.
include that within a future APC meeting?
Yeah.
So taken, Mr. Fernandez. Thank you very much. Yes, I've heard a number of complaints on short-term rentals, and I think that's coming up later in the agenda. Community Forest Co-op, nothing to report, so summer hiatus. Cowichan Valley Regional District, in my absence, my alternate, Councilor Bomaka, attended, and I will turn to her for anything that transpired.
It was actually quite some interesting, discussions there. David Slade was there for Friends of Rails to Trails. And they have a website called fortvi.ca for Vancouver Island, and it's trying to take the existing rails and have them removed and put trails. And the first part they're looking at is Langford to Courtney, and then from Port Alberta to Parksville. And they're looking at 289 kilometers of repurposing those railway tracks at a cost of $172 million. And so they're looking at an active transportation, and I believe it was through the federal government. They did a feasibility study, and now they're going to, I think he said there was 20-something municipalities and First Nations that are all on that trail system. And they're hoping that they all come together and we'll build this through. So it was pretty interesting. So if anybody wants to go on to that website again, it's fortvi.ca, and it's Friends of Rails to Trails Vancouver Island. And the other one was the regional recreation report to do with Cowichan Lake Recreation, because now that's been taken care of. Now they're looking for a model of governance on the 4 community halls, which is Honeymoon Bay, Missachi Lake, Yubo, and Lake Cowichan. So they're looking for direction, and it's coming back, I think, possibly tomorrow, because Director Ian Morrison wanted some fiscal data. And I think what they're looking for is, they don't know how many people, whether they want to have the current commission looking after them, or whether they want to go to another option. I think I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It was all jumbled for me. And so I think that Director Morrison said that if it was by assessment basis, Area F would be 45%, 35% for I, and 20% Lake Cowichan. Yet population wise, Lake Cowichan has more use of the Centennial Hall. And so they're trying to figure out whether it should be the commission looking after it or a governance model. Yeah, so that's coming up to a later board meeting.
I can hardly wait.
I know, I was, when they referred, deferred us going, whoo. And the other interesting one was the Paldy development, that they're looking to put 500 homes back in that area. And that was quite interesting, because the Cowichan tribes, I believe, are on board with it. And there was quite a bit of talk about the water in that area, but all the guidelines and everything seem to have been adhered to, and so it looks forward to that. That's another one for you. 62 minutes plus a session, not in camera, what do they call it? Closed meeting. And I can't remember how long that was for one item on the agenda, so you can't say that we didn't thoroughly discuss that one item. And Chair Aaron Stone mentioned at the meeting the book from the Cowichan Lake and River Stewardship Society, Witnessing the Water. And he was quite impressed with it, and was telling people where they could get copies of that.
Great.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
9 hour day. Thank you very much. Any questions to Councilor Blumaka? Thank you for attending in my absence. I'm sorry that I put you through that.
I know. It's a good learning curve.
Councilor Austin, anything on the community outreach?
Nobody until August.
And our couch and Councilor Sandin?
So we had a meeting set for September 14th, but I just got an email yesterday, it's been canceled. So
Rescheduled a little later.
I guess
Great. Couch and Watershed Board.
we have a meeting in person this Monday. I'm done with it. Location.
To be-
It's announced. It's in person.
Thank you. Are you still, if I may, are you still meeting at the CBRD board?
We do alternate there and the couch and tribes. no,
CM Land?
Thank you, there, so we alternate there and we'll do the odd. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We have staff reports, Chief Administrative Officer on the mileage expense claims, Joseph.
Yeah, there's not a lot to report on other than, we didn't do an item that council get involved with. I just, this came up as a discussion point at last committee of the whole, and got two options here. So really up to council to look at that, these two options, or to look at something different.
Okay, and you have the recommendation there, and it's to clarify the mileage, distance that we travel in the business for the town on any appointments that we do. So, Councilor Sandu, you have a. what's your-
So we only once, we're usually at the same location, so we only once have to print out the Google Maps to give the accurate, so we don't have to do that every month, correct?
Yeah, if we've got something on the record. Yeah.
Yeah, so once we do that, then it can just, you can go back to that.
Okay. Councilor Bowman.
So on B, the actual mileage schedule to be calculated, so would that have to be recorded as to what your mileage was when you left and when you arrived?
No, it would be the mileage that's on the back of your
The form,
phone, if
okay,
you want to use that.
so you're on this, you're saying it's either by Google Map or it's by the mileage on your expense,
Correct.
not somebody saying I left my house and my mileage was and I
Yeah.
arrived in, okay, it's one or the other of Google or, okay, thank you.
So for clarity, you need A or B to be brought forward.
Oh, you can have both. I mean, it's the option, it's up to you.
Yes, so we could utilize either one of these when we're making in our expense. So, perfect. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
So is this already on there? or do we
You may want to adopt,
We should have
giving
done
the council the option. Either picking A or B.
It's up to you.
Yeah, well, no,
Still have to move.
you pick the option that you want when you make the click.
Oh, okay, so we're just moving your recommendation, A and B. I'll move the recommendation.
Councilor Sandu, seconded by Councilor Frisbee. Have we beaten this one up yet?
Yes.
Or do you want to go into closed and discuss?
No, it's fine.
Okay, any other input? Call the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Next is the Director of Finance on the Sandy dump. Ms. Gill.
This is an analysis of just what was in the contract. The fee that would be charged by County Star and the Carlo system they're recommending. I'm sure the superintendent has something to add further.
So when this came up last year, I looked around, this is the only system I could find. And Ronnie has done the costs on it. And then for us to install that system and do a bit of an upgrade there, it's another $15,000 or $20,000. Plus these fees every year, so every month. It's by putting this system in, it should increase our revenue, but don't know exactly how much it would increase, so. Really,
Anything? I'll start. I think when you look at the current system on the honor system, I would equate that to the buy-in for organics pickup, which is roughly around 40%. So if we're looking at 40% honest box contributions, we're not utilizing 60% of income intake that could be utilized with the automated system. I think the return on investment of 60% would allow me to go forward with an automated system where everybody pays, not just 30 or 40%. And then review whenever the terms of the contract would be whether or not that was feasible on a return of investment. I think we've had numerous people that have reached out and suggested that not only this sanitation portion be monitored and automated, but also the water system. There's some abuses that have occurred on that system as well. I don't know how that could be implemented, whether it would be a separate infrastructure for that, but there's also concerns on that when we're on water restrictions and there's people utilizing that as an ancillary source for water. That becomes problematic to the users of the system currently. So I would be in favor of moving forward with the automated system and look at how it could be the return on investment for that utilization. Perhaps the 60% that we want incorporating. Councilor Sanders.
Just a question on insurance coverage. So what would that $1 million coverage cover? Like any damage or,
Yeah, it'd be the liability coverage.
and then there would be a deductible each time?
Yeah, each time like the town's deductible is 10, so probably we would be on the hook for any damage.
$10,000 each deduction.
Just for clarification on liability insurance, so my guess would be caused to people that are using it, right? That's the liability insurance, right? That's not the actual unit.
It'd be for the unit as well, liability and damage to the.
If I may, would that not reside within MIA, within our current rider?
Yeah, this is on our property, so it's just like a building insurance, so we're building in.
So it'd be incorporated within our current insurance structure. Just in addition to what our infrastructure is.
Correct.
Anything further? Councilor Frisbee?
Oh, sorry.
Councilor Austin,
Well, I'm just thinking it's such a lot of money for the output of this, and it is in American funds, and we know 25 to 30% over and above in our Canadian funds. I'm just wondering how long it would take to pay us back when we've been getting, 11,000, 15,000, 14,000 every year. We've been doing quite well. I know you say 40%, but it probably might be a bit higher than that.
Well, I can tell you by actual facts of sitting in line with my trailer, having paid water and sewer in my utility bills, I do incorporate funds into that when I use that coming back from the camping trip. And in long lineups of 15 or 20 people, I see 3 that pay
That happened one time or a lot.
every time that I'm there. So it's just anecdotal, but without some true numbers, I don't think you know what your missing revenues would be
No.
without implementing an automated system.
And I did at one point when I was at my fitness class, see somebody washing their car with the water, and I reported it right away that they were gone before anybody could do it. It just seems like an awful lot of money in the original of that.
Councilor Frisbee.
I actually agree with you. If you look at just this report, it's quite easy to say that this wouldn't be responsible. But the amount of detail that's missing in this report, because we are just guessing on what it is, it will be so easily attained. To me, this is a business decision, right? The expenses versus what the income is. So to clarify, like this hasn't been debated by this council. It was brought forward by our CAO to maybe look into it. It was included in the budget. We've never had a discussion about it. Obviously, you guys know I'm passionate about it as well. So the fact this report's coming in now, obviously we've just collected this data. But I mean, with a business plan, and just for clarity, it's not $20 the recommended donation, it's 15 still.
Oh,
But to me, if you have a business decision, you've got to weigh up expenses versus the income. The first step is getting prices for equipment, which I think is what we've got. And then the next step is to Google and guess. So we're Googling what other communities do and guess at what, like we're guessing at the insurance quote. My guess is that the terminal fee $9.95 is actually the transaction fee. But the 2 next steps are so easy to do, but we don't have to guess. And that's market research. We've already got the unit set up. If we put down some staff member there for 4 hours on the weekend, have the box empty at the start of that 4 hours, count how many cars, the end of the 4 hours, see how much is in it, we know how much per car we're getting, and then we can set our rates. So that would be the first step. And the second step is there's already other people doing it. You know, we're not the only municipality that do it, so we could reach out to other people that have that unit. If you look at the list of prices we've got, a lot of them are attached to businesses and gas stations. So it's another way to get people in, but we're just guessing at the moment, and that's what frustrates me, because I understand the recommendation that the CEO has made, but we haven't got all the information. So I would recommend to staff that we do more work. I don't know if it's fitting to have one of our summer students sit there for 4 hours on a weekend to see exactly how much your income is per vehicle who is doing it, because I've been in the same boat as you, and I've gone where I've pulled up and counted how many people, and I haven't on cash on me, so I'm one of those guys that didn't pay.
No,
I'm also one of those guys that has a kid run home and say the water's been left on up there, so we have to go up there and turn it off. So we need to do something. But I must caution that this is another business move, and whether we want to get into that, or whether we want to stay the same way. I know that there were concerns about sharing income numbers at this meeting because we're worried about theft. Well, I can tell you one way to fix that is to put in a pay station, so you wouldn't have cash. So I'm quite frustrated with this, because we are presenting the recommendation, we're not getting all the information. And when I got this, I felt I could go out and get all this information. I can send my kid over there to count and do all this, but you know, it's not really our job. It needs to be a better report than this.
so you most certainly are within your rights to refer this back for some of the suggestions that you had within your comments there, so.
Yes, I would like to recommend that back to staff.
So, on the referral motion,
So specifically, I'd like some staff to survey exactly how much we're getting over a certain period, and then also reach out to other municipalities that have the same system to look into fees, insurance, and every bit of information you can get out of it.
okay, on the proprietary referral, please. Any suggestions, input from council members? So that has moved to Councilor Mamaka, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Because one of the ones that we were sent were showing all the different communities that never even charged.
Yeah.
And so we've got a sign up there that's saying suggested $15 donation. And yet the highest on Vancouver Island for fees charged are minimal, and the highest is $8.
Those are at non-campground, standard dump stations. So some of the campgrounds do charge, ones that are at the campground do charge. They're free to the people, guests staying there, but they do charge other people $10 to $15.
10 to 15, okay. And the second question, in the water that's used, that's up there, why is the water there for a service? Because they're dumping, but are they using the water for cleaning as they're dumping?
Using it for the water cistern system.
Because if we're providing a SAMI dump service, and if the water is being abused while we're having drought season and when we're under water restrictions, why, or is there a reasoning why we can't turn that water off during those times?
It was put in back in the day, and not some places had it, some don't.
Just the way that is.
It's used for cleaning, so you dump out your pipe and then you wash the pipe with water to clear it completely out. Is one of the uses for it. So I'd say it might get a bit gross up there if we didn't have the water system.
Councilor Ross.
It's also to fill your tank, right? We did a lot of camping. Yeah, there's a separate one, but you do have to wash that out. We usually use the water out of the sink to wash out the sewer one afterwards and clean it out that way.
I'm just thinking about.
You have to.
Using it by filling up tank loads.
Well, they do, but most tanks, but depends on how big they are.
Okay, we have a referral motion on the table. So I will call a question on the referral. All those in favor
I just have a question, just,
on the referral?
well, just on this overall,
I'm
like,
going to hold you to the referral motion. Sorry, I was a little bit lenient to the conference on that.
wow.
I know. But on the proprietary referral, the referral motion takes precedent over anything that.
Also, that's my question then.
Okay, you could just reach out to staff.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
So the referral is on referring it to.
Yes, on the points that Councilor Frisbee.
Okay.
Okay, clear?
Yeah.
All those in favor? Opposed to any? Respectful debate, that's fine. Thank you very much. And if you need any clarity on the report itself, please reach out to staff afterwards. And I apologize for letting Councilor Benacca go and not.
Favoritism.
Next, under,
They're noting all of that, by the way.
yes, I'll be written up.
You're not.
Contract planner on the Housing Accelerator Fund grant application. Mr. Fernandez, do you wish to speak to this?
I could indeed, where the proposed resolution, because if you look at number 5. It's in conflict with number 5 above. So I would like to suggest, because we don't want to go through change in the development cost charges now at the aim is to insert in number 5. I'll just read it out, waive the development cost charges for affordable fees for affordable housing where such fees are covered under grant program. Because this application would actually cover any development cost charge. So I think that would be more appropriate, but that's just like, otherwise, who determines what affordable is?
Developer or, yes, that the affordable verbiage can be defined by many different members of many different ways. But I thought that if I may, that during our implementation of the revised development cost charges, that we did have an avenue to have a municipal forgiveness,
Yeah, very little.
whatever percentage is in that. And we're looking to accommodate a further reduction of funds.
Yeah, so that's why I think if you just include that language, then at least it another function.
So could you read that out again for us, please?
Number 5 would say waive the development cost charges. Charges for affordable housing where such charges are covered under the grant. And you don't have to check it out.
Yeah, that was my main concern, was that waiving of permit fees, but. I guess with the grant, it is around $400,000, but when you lose those DCCs. I guess the net gain is 172,000. And for clarity, for that, we'd have to there'd be no rezoning hearings for residents, so that wouldn't happen. There'd been development permits could be approved by staff without council involvement. Areas of Lake Cowichan will be designated rental only. And now we've just covered that waiving the DCCs. Seems like a lot for the grant.
But if I may, the other thing is you may want to rethink allowing staff to make that determination. For approval of DCC. Delegate development from approval to staff. You may want to rethink that. Because I kind of think having council make that determination.
Piggyback on that.
Absolutely.
The rezoning hearings though, that would be something we want the residents to be able to voice though, wouldn't it?
Correct.
So that's the first implementation in that grant. So we wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, you don't want to refer it to staff. Because then it will take the public input process out of the picture.
So if we do take that out of it, I know that we need 5 implementations. Can we still get away with this grant if we take that out?
I think so.
And is there a need for rental only areas in Lake Cowichan?
I mean,
Is there a need for rental only areas in Lake Cowichan?
there is one zoning, I believe.
It's the trail's edge, I believe.
But we would have to implement
We
a
would
lot
have
more.
to implement,
And could we do that? Like, is there areas that we could do?
with the approval. of the-
So if I can, we have been highlighted as one of the communities that's not living up to its housing assessment needs by the province. We're not in the top 10, but we are not meeting the requirements that were brought forward in that implementation plan. This is one opportunity to perhaps negate some of those deficiencies. I've been a staunch supporter of rental only zones within certain jurisdictions of new developments as an avenue to incorporate rental stock instead of short-term rental or vacation rental options, where it's implemented similar to what we did with the plant development of the Y. A certain portion of those where the densification bonus had to be implemented as a below market rental for a number of years, just to afford the opportunity for people to have a place to reside within the rental market, should they not be able to afford to purchase housing, as many people have afforded that opportunity. And so it's just an avenue to allow people to stay within the community where they have grown up, were born, work. There is no rental stock currently afforded to our area. It's being purchased up and utilized in short-term rental, especially in the adjacent rental areas. So that was one of the avenues. I think the province will be stepping in. They asked us for a list of brown properties that could be afforded to attainable housing, and that may be an option within this that could fit. So the rental only zoning could probably be implemented within that identified structures that we have forwarded to the province. Just my thoughts, thinking outside the box on if we're going to incorporate a wholesome community, I think we need all aspects of housing that we can attain within this. And this is just one step. Yes, Councillor.
I agree with you that there should be portions of developments being zoned rent or having as affordable rentals. But also know the cost of construction at the moment outweighs the rental income. So having an entire map of only rentals might scare away developers. But the use of a portion of developments would make a lot of sense. So my concern is that if we start like using the zoning bylaw land use map and saying this is rentals, it's going to be hard to get development in there that isn't something that the province brings. You know, it's going to be hard to attract private development. So that was one of my other concerns with this as well.
And I think with number 5, especially, that affords the developer that relief on some of the construction costs if they're covered within the grant application for DCC, which are significantly higher now than developments in the past. And my intent was never to have full subdivisions as rental only, but portions similar to a 5% holdback that we have for parks currently, that perhaps some percentage of that could be utilized within those new developments, not the whole implementation.
So not in its entirety, point 2. So applying rental only zoning with an R designation on the zoning bylaw land use map.
And that would just, in my opinion, accommodate the identification that there could be a usage of rental in that
Yeah.
zone,
that's
not the
right.
whole.
Yeah, exactly. So if I may,
Absolutely.
I think this is something we'd like to take. What is there a timeline on this?
There is, because we don't have moving till September.
Because it's just, I think the 5 points and the changes you've made tonight, I think we need clarification on that. And maybe point 2 could be used instead of having a zoning rental, having a portion of new developments. Like Mayor McGonigal said, that has to be affordable rentals instead of using a whole land use map. Or something like that.
You could make that yourself.
Yeah, percentage of it, but at the moment, the current 6 steps there that are written out in this report scare me a bit.
Councillor,
Sandy.
sure.
Thanks. Just going to number 2, is there many developments in other communities that have a designated R zoning for rental?
Have a look
That
at
you
Burnaby. Burnaby has implemented a majority of their new developments, have a percentage of their only stock. That is afforded to adjacent transit lines, and that's where the province is focusing their future rental stock is within those transit corridors. We unfortunately don't have a transit corridor, so we have to think outside of that opportunity.
And just one more comment. So with the no rezoning hearing, so you said you would look to take that out,
I think the public hearing process is still good, because
like when we have a development, each time we'll still have that public hearing.
I, and Council Frisbee's right, just to assume.
Counselor.
I
Oh,
just-
Can you elaborate a little bit further on number 4, delegate development permit approval to staff?
Yeah, that would mean council will not take that consideration.
So
Staff
it
would,
it normally used to come if it needed to.
do you guys?
So I'm a little bit uncomfortable myself with that one. Can we get a timeline of when a developer does come and make application, the timeline of what it takes to them to get to the approval to build process?
Takes 2 months. Short period of time.
2 months to the shortest and to the longest?
3 weeks. If it depends on when the application. is. If it's made at the beginning of the month. Then 2 months. But if you make it towards the end of, then you basically. Will go over some places.
But there are some that have gone way longer than that. That's my
Very
concern.
few, very few.
You got a follow-up, Counselor?
Yeah, it's just seeing that the deadline is August 18th, I would find it hard to get a resolution from council before that time with changes needed. I think, in my opinion, but
think
staff
we
think that
can-
they can do it.
Can we work through it tonight, considering we don't have a meeting until September, then we would not have this go forward with the application. So I think we've identified that 2 is a problem by applying rental only zones in a whole designated zoning map. If we change that to say apply a portion of rental only zoning within our designation on the zoning bylaw now. Would that appease that concern?
1, 2, yeah.
Number 3. I think we do need rezoning hearings on whether it's affordable, attainable, or densification. That be removed, that zoning hearings still be afforded. Are we in agreement with that? Number 4. I think council still wants to be involved in the development permit process, if I'm hearing correctly. We've had concerns previously on some of that within development permit areas where council do not feel comfortable with some of the language in that, but if it's your intent to stay in there, I think if we continue to have council involved in the development permit process, would that appease that concern? And within number 5 to add, I'm trying to get it through that.
Well, then we should let's go back to number 4, because
Okay, what's number 4?
Number 4, has there been a situation in the past before my time where council has shut down a development permit that falls under all the necessary bylaws and building permits? Like, has there ever been a situation where the council stepped in and disapproved a development permit, not a rezoning, but a development? Because most of the time we get a recommendation from
Yeah.
James,
Yeah.
and it would probably pass, that would look into.
Yeah, what council's done is make changes to it. Yeah. To the approval, to the recommendation, we just change some numbers or just add additional requirements.
And that this process would take that away.
Especially by making DPAs, development permit areas that are brought forward. There has been some input by previous councils as to what would be incorporated in that. And I'm not going to suggest specific properties, but aside from what the staff recommendation came, there was concerns brought forward by the members of the table at that time as to what they would like to see within that DPA. So I think it's still important that there be some input, but that we're not the final decision makers, that we're just utilizing what's currently available with some input on some community and input members. Sorry.
So that would be brought to the table for discussion, but it wouldn't be for an approval.
You may have been under staff.
if it went to staff, because what we're looking for is delegate development permit approval to staff.
So we'll just report to you after.
So you'd be reporting to us after it's approved, which is not what we're looking for, is it?
Right.
So, yeah, I don't think it come, yeah, I don't think it comes.
So remain, development permit approval remains, with council input.
Yes,
We don't have final approval, because we're not the approving officers, but we do have input.
we would like input before the approval, before the approval.
So, development permit approval remains with council input.
Yeah.
On number 4. Good with that?
And
Are you?
things like
Perfect. Number 5, we're gonna add the grant,
recommendation and
the grant recommendation that you spoke of
Yeah.
before we took everything apart of this whole recommendation. So you got those changes? If
Yeah.
not, you can review the video later. Are we okay with this? Okay, so there's your resolutions, and I'm not gonna go over them again, because I'll miss something.
Yeah.
Joseph,
I just wondered if you want to refer this to EPC, so they can, then just have their input on this whole process.
with the changes
With the
that you've suggested. Timing wise, that may be a problem as well.
It's this week.
August
It's
18th,
Thursday.
Thursday. So what we can do here tonight is approve in principle these changes, and then refer to APC for any input. Councilor Sandy.
Thank
got your
you.
name
So,
on that. Oh, he's very good.
so if it goes to APC and they don't agree with some of these things, then what are you going to do? You've got two sides of the coin here saying one
Good.
thing. Huh?
Maybe you may want to, maybe the third back count,
But there's a time.
so do you want to go?
I personally just think we need to move forward with this from this table.
So if we make the resolution tonight and pass it and then send it to APC for information.
Yeah. Okay, then. That's what I was gonna say. As in,
As it, and James will have some input at the APC as to the changes that. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
I need a mover in a second. Moved by Councillor Van Hu, seconded by Councillor Austin. I think we've debated this. Did that? All in favor? Good debate though. Excellent. Opposed, if any? That carries.
I was just gonna say one more thing.
Absolutely.
I was just gonna say, something like this is sometimes not easy to understand. And I think it was a good exercise that you went through each point and clarified. Because sometimes language, like, you don't read, it's not your day-to-day life is, you look at this and you're like, okay, do I really understand? So thank you for that.
Oh, no, thank you, Councillor Frisbee.
would this usually have a recommendation from you at the end of it? Like, wouldn't have that been a better process if you had the recommendation in?
That could, yes.
Okay. All good? Moving on, we have bylaws. Singular. Double, 42, 2A, Town of Lake Couch and permissive exemption bylaw. With the Royal Canadian Legion. Mr. Fernandez?
Yes, this file has been given 3 readings previously. And it's to give permissive exemption from taxation for a portion of the law of the region building. It's dealing with taxation on the recreation not-for-profit class 8 component for the calendar year 2024 to 2028
So 5-year term.
by return. So it's here for reconsideration.
Looking for reconsideration and adoption, here's Civil Warning, Councilor Bonacca, seconded by Councilor Frisbee. Any further discussion? All question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Next is the Town of Lake Couch and Council Procedures bylaw. Maybe read for first, second, third time, something says. Joseph, did you have some input there?
Yes, this bylaw is here for first, second, and third reading. It's as a result of council wanting to add the public input process at the beginning. And because we've made changes to sections of the bylaw dealing with the committee report, committee, that is now we've got the committee of the whole, so just make changes to something.
Counselor Sandu?
I just wondered if, when we get something like this, can we talked about a few months ago, could we highlight what you're changing? So then when we're reading this, just so we're clear on, like, it took me a bit
It
to,
would be a whole bunch of,
it will, but it's important that we're aware of what language is being changed. Because I don't want to have to compare the old one to, or the current one to this. So, me too, I don't have time.
How many pages is it? Only
21.
21.
Well, if
No,
it's
I
highlighted, it's
understand.
a lot easier.
Understand. Okay, are we,
Oh,
Counselor?
I was just gonna move it, if people are
You
ready.
most certainly may move it the first, second, and third time. Do I have a seconder on that? Seconded by Counselor Frisbee. Any further input? All the question, all those in favor? Opposed to any? Motion carries as well. Under new business A, we have registration for the Island Economic Summit, October 25th and 26th in Nanaimo, BC. Councilor Austin has attended in the past. I have attended in the past. It is a very good conference. So let's see if there's a resolution coming forward in attendance on this.
There'll be sometimes say if up to 2 people can attend or something like that. and they can
Absolutely,
Decide who wants
whatever
to
you
attend.
wish to bring forward.
I'd just like to make a motion that up to 2 members can attend. It's not something you might want to go to every single year. But I've attended twice in my 8 years and it is really interesting. I would probably like to be one of the people, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, so you're moving up to 2 people,
2 members?
2 members of council, be registered for the economic summit in Nanaimo, October 25th, 26th. Do I have a second on that? Second by Councilor Sandu. Input.
always have input.
I know, that's why I turned it.
I was gonna say, being that it's in the Nanaimo, do we have to limit it to 2?
I just said up to 2. So it
So
could
how
be the whole
about
entire.
how about if we amend it to those wishing to
Wishing to
attend?
attend.
Would you be okay with that?
Yes, I would.
Seconder be okay with that? So anyone who wishes to register for the Island Economic Summit be afforded that opportunity for October 25th and 26th in Nanaimo, British Columbia, Canada. Moved and seconded already. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? If you can, please forward your intent as soon as possible for registration. Thank you. New business B, charging stations. We brought this forward, Councilor Austin.
Well, I think myself and Councillor Frisbee had talked about this, something else we were at. I believe being on Point Ideal is quite a traffic issue. I don't think that's a good place for it at all on that corner. And I know I can see where they've got the 4 here inside by the museum and all that. That would actually be a better place. But I know people say they want to close off the park for events. We don't have that many events in that park that we would have to close it off for. Heritage Days and Lake Days are the 2 that I know of. I just thought there might be other options further down by the Trans-Canada Trail kiosk, that gravel patch there. That's on the corner there is would be a traffic hazard, and also taking away those gardens is not going to be a very positive part for that area.
Okay, thank you for that input, Councilor Wamaka.
Did we not already send this to BC Hydro?
Yes, I believe I signed the contract already.
But there's still discussion available.
Yeah, there's always discussion available. If I may, or anyone else puts their hand up. I think the intent of moving it outside of option 1 was to not take away parking that is currently afforded within that, whether it's closed off or not. That one of the stipulations was that it had to be 24-hour access to the charging stations for BC Hydro. The access and egress I think could be accommodated with letdowns at either end of option two. That's just my opinion. I'm not a traffic expert, but that was the discussion previously. To allow up to 7 charging units as opposed to 4. We're seeing a large input of electric vehicles that are visiting, staying within our community. Myself included, I utilize the current charging stations and down at Sable Park, when I'm coming to the town office, etc. So yes, I do use it, but I'm a taxpayer as well, so I have no qualms of doing that, but I'm certainly open to any other input. Councilor Brisbane.
As someone who's used chargers before in yourself, what is the difference between level 2 and fast charger? And level 2 chargers less desirable?
So the current, if I know, the current level 2 charger at Saywell that are currently free, charge at approximately 49 kilometers per hour. They are, I forget what the kilowatt is on those. The fast charger option at 150 kilowatts will charge upwards of 300 kilometers per hour. So the time within those charging stations would be minimized on the fast charging, as opposed to if my car were to be at 10%, I would need to be at a free station well beyond the 2 hours allowable. And I would be looking at a ticket or a tow. That was just in jest. In the fast charger, within an hour, I could be up to 8%. And nothing like that.
So for clarification, if I may, option 1 is for fast chargers.
I believe there was 2 of each. One was this 275s and 2 150s.
I've got all yellows on this.
I thought they were gonna upgrade them all to the fast charge, even the 2 that are already there.
No. The
Well,
two
that
that
was
are
one of
already,
the things.
the 2 that are already there will be turned off,
I'll just turn those off.
and then
They belong to the town.
Yeah,
then they will be implemented into a pay system in the future was the discussion. So that all charging stations that are currently in that municipality will be a charge system.
Yeah.
Or what?
Mr. Sandu, what are your thoughts on traffic issues with that corner if we were to put them in option 2?
I personally don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. We can put some signage there, it'll have letdowns. And people can back in off the road. Instead of backing into traffic, they should be backing off the road. So. Because you can easily back off.
Is there enough room, if I may, is there enough room to have a pull in and back in instead of having vehicles? Because that road is getting busier and busier and we're already trying to get a traffic study to see how we can improve it. Is there enough room there to pull a vehicle in and back into it? Because I don't think we want people backing in because people rip around that corner.
That's possible. I haven't done any studies on it or checks on it. I was gonna leave that up to BC Hydro. They can put their staff up there and look at it, or if you guys want, we can spend some time at it.
I've got real concerns about the traffic on that corner, so I don't know what the process is and whether BC Hydro look into that traffic and what effect it would have at that corner. But to me, I've experienced pulling out onto that road in the middle of summer, and it's backing out, and you can't do it blind at that corner.
And I do agree that a pull in and back into the charging would be optimal, and I think
It might be close.
I think it's close if you had an access to where the 2 trails are on the map to come in, and then an egress by the other trail. You could come in there, pull in, and then back into those separate units.
Now, there's quite a bit of room there. It's probably quite doable.
It'll be quite back towards.
You're not gonna get a truck trailer in there, but single vehicles.
Seen a few tested that trailers these days.
Yes,
Furthermore, the point that Councillor Austin made is there any significance to that garden? What has been invested by the public in the garden that's presently there?
communities in bloom. And a resident actually gave $100 to start that. That was quite a few years ago. We did a lot of work, to beautify that area. But I'm more concerned with the traffic. I just don't think it's the right spot. And I don't think Hydro is into traffic. I don't think they understand traffic. Maybe they do. I don't know. It's possible. And we only had it at one meeting and really didn't have a lot of time to think about this. That was what bothered me. Because you're thinking, oh, that's a great thing. And there are a few more electric cars around, but I don't know. I think option one would be good enough. And,
But they want access to that 365, we can never shut that gate.
well, don't shut the gate then.
And we shut, no, that's not,
Just for Heritage Day.
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Because the taxpayers are first, not people who have time with electric cars.
No, but it could be locals. I mean, Tim could be there.
Just-
Sure.
Yeah, I've had discussions with BC Hydro just lately, after I had discussions with the superintendent. And they're looking for a decision from council. They were quite unhappy that we're even looking at this option. And so there was a good chance unless you come up a better option, they will pull up.
Councilor Mack, I think I had you on the call.
That's okay, I'm patient. So, sorry, back to superintendent. So the two that are there right now are going to stay and be changed to pay
Eventually, but.
eventually.
Once, if Hydro comes in, we'll shut those ones down, because we're giving free power away right now.
Yeah,
So
but there's an option to make those as
there is
paid.
an option.
So here's a thinking outside the box, being that this is a congested area with parking. Was there any thought given to putting the charging station once the Mildred Childs is taken out at the municipal hall?
I think that was to be utilized for our parking designation that is needed within the corporation that is in the building. That was the child come around with the parking and a trail system in the back of the river. And one of the thoughts was to perhaps utilize the gravel parking lot that's adjacent. Unfortunately, that can't be utilized because of a geothermal unit under the parking lot that accommodates community services building. We had looked at maybe moving it down a bit to get it away from that corner, but that was one of the problems that came forward, investigated that possibility. Yes, Mr. Dodd.
Yeah, I understand,
So,
I understand BC Hydro's concerns. I wasn't at the last meeting, I was streaming on the computer afterwards. But I think if we were to come up with option two, where we can have a turnaround spot where no one's backing either on the road, backing into those spots or backing out into traffic, I would personally be okay with that. So the further we can push that back and get some kind of, to take that traffic off the road, because I can see that being a real hazard. I understand the gate issue with it, with the other option. And I'm guessing the existing area where the electric charges are now isn't an option.
No. Because those fast chargers are quite large.
Right.
I have Dalton.
If I could just add
Mr.
a couple of comments, actually, and I'm coming from experience with this charging station situation, the same as the mayor is. But the backing up at a charging station is very, very common. Point Ideal Road and all the parking during the summertime is virtually, when we're busy, it's slow anyways, and you have to back out. Everyone backs out from most stations. I don't see it as such a big problem. Even option one, which I have to say, I thought was the best one at first when I have been sitting on discussions. But when option two came up and I looked closely at it and I watched all the traffic, I think that it is the best. And it does create, you have a better situation with more parking spots. So there's not 7 stations, but it takes up 7 parking spaces. And I don't think you'll ever be able to drive through with that distance. I think you always have to back up.
Yeah, we could measure it. I don't know.
You walked it many times, right?
I think you have something, Councillor Sandu?
So with option one, could the gate going down there not be moved further back? So that section, like after where the line is, where it says option one, could the gate not be moved back a little
Yeah,
bit?
you can move that way, that gives, there's two reasons we've decided to. That parking spot, my understanding is, was originally for the cats in the museum, so then we're taking their parking lot away. Two, if we have an event there, the food trucks, etc., utilize the paved area. So then we're not gonna be able to do that because we have to keep that open for BC Hydro's use. That's the reason we decided to scrap that spot.
So what I'm hearing from the table is the access and egress, if we can accommodate a letdown in and a letdown out for access and egress. And backing into the charging stations, which most people do, because the charging unit is usually on the back, except for some of the Hyundais. But that's fine. If we can put that forward to BC Hydro, that is our concern with that busy traffic there. I think option 2 is the more economical option for fast charging, rather than cutting off the access to the museum, for instance, et cetera, but that's just me personally. I have, as you say, we did this earlier. Unfortunately, it was time sensitive, as a lot of things are that come here. And we make a decision based on the best information that we're afforded at the time. Concerns come up in foregoing discussion on whether those plants can be reutilized. I'm sure they will be, similar to other plantings that have been moved from one area to another. We will utilize those in another location, whether it be at the new transit stop or the new Y section. There has been some incorporation of some plantings reinstituted from various places. So I'm comfortable with 2, given our concerns brought forward on access and egress out of there to BC Hydro to move that back as far as possible.
So what we could do there, the whole area could be a letdown, that whole length. And if there's not very many, but they can drive in, do the loop and back up. If it's 80% full, then it might have to back off. In most cases, they'll be able to just do the loop and park.
Yes,
Um,
Councilor Austin.
does Hydro pay for putting the letdowns and the sidewalk and everything?
I believe they're responsible for all infrastructure costs. If I'm not mistaken. So any access and egress that allows vehicles to utilize those charging stations, I believe would be within BC Hydro.
Yeah, all the cost is there. So
And if I may, I would encourage you to, when you can get down Canada Avenue, to go by the co-op station and look at the access and egress of that. It is a very congested area with parking for the co-op employees as well. There's only 2 charging stations there, but they haven't utilized access and egress into those as well. So they did all that infrastructure work at their cost. So we do need a resolution moving forward though, so I'm gonna look to see who's gonna be.
I will move option 2 with the notes of what we talked about, the access and grounds.
Okay. Moved by Councilor Sandu, seconded by Aaron. I'll second it. Further discussion? I know we brought up a number of concerns, but I think that they can be accommodated with some language within BC Hydro themselves. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion fails. So we either abandon this process and tell BC Hydro that we have reneged on the contract and go from there. Or Councilor Sandy had
So firstly, we have a signed contract,
yes, we do.
so why are we having, I know we're having this discussion just for final discussion, but if the contract's been signed, then we are obligated to the contract, and if we don't follow through, what will be the repercussions possibly to the town?
Nothing really, I think they have included a bunch of costs. I don't think they will come back to us on that. They've indicated that they've gone through and did a lot of engineering work to prepare that site, prepare for that site. They are also aware that council is reconsidering this. And the only thing that they're suggesting is, they think this is the best option.
So they may, sorry, if I'm gonna follow just one comment is, so they may just say they'll find another community basically that will be
Support.
open to this. So having said that, then we're in a position where we need to improve this in our community. So this would be very disheartening if we're not all understanding the repercussions of not following through with this contract, what that means to the town. So we need to really think about that.
Councillor Frisbee, then Austin, then Lomaka.
Well, I just want to explain why I voted against there. It's just I can't in good conscience vote to have a parking study, invest in money specifically for downtown, but specifically Point Ideal. And then for this here where I'm unsure. I do want the charging station there, but I'm not confident that our concerns are going to be fulfilled. And if you know, being involved in this council, if we do come up with a hazard on that corner, I just can't be responsible for that. Is the reason.
Respect your process, absolutely. Councillor Austin.
Yeah, and I feel much the same, but I also have to say that it was a rush job, this time sensitive.
Yeah.
We should have been given the option to think about before the contract was signed, so really, they're rushing us and they shouldn't do that.
Well, in all fairness, we did make a resolution to go with option 2 and.
Because it was such a rush, and we're going, well, oh my
Just
God, we
saying,
gotta
that
do
was the
it.
process.
But again, that's wrong, that's,
Yeah. that's the
I
process.
just think that we could say to them that we aren't happy with that corner. Is there somewhere else they could come up with that would fit? Even less than 7, if they could do less than 7, you know.
In the same spot.
Get somewhere else, or if they could come up with something else, I mean, that's all.
There's your 2 options because of the access to
I
the
know.
3-phase hydro system that comes up.
Yeah,
We've discussed this with Hydro quite a bit. They've looked at, I've given many options throughout the town.
That's right.
They're probably just gonna pull out town and operate.
That's why council.
They've looked at all the options. We've given them Country Grocery, we looked at Central Park, we looked at the new bus stop.
that's a good
I
spot.
think even here along the old road, and they rejected everything, and this was the final option, and other than that, they probably leave town.
Councillor Maka.
Yeah, mine is this, that reasoning is that's already a congested area that we're having a lot of traffic issues. So we're taking away more parking spots. And I said in the beginning, I wasn't comfortable. We, at this table, our responsibility is to our residents first, not BC Hydro coming in and telling us where
No,
they're
absolutely.
gonna put it that benefits them. I think it needs to benefit us in the town, and it's not saying, no, we don't want them. It's the right location for them and the right amount of charging stations that will fit there.
So just for clarity, I don't understand your point about taking parking spots away. These are not taking parking spots away. That is off the road.
But if option 1, it would go into taking away.
Option
parking.
1 would take.
Yeah.
away.
Well,
So-
option 2 takes away a bit on that corner, there's still parking in there.
For the access.
Yeah. Anyway,
But it's more so we're
Just the right-
creating more here, and I agree with Councillor Austin, we did. Make the resolution with the best information we had at that time,
Mhm.
and I think that now that we're all looking at it. It's not saying we don't want them, it's just saying we need the time. And the right space and the right place.
Councillor Frisbee.
With the new information that they probably won't go with any other options. But they'll probably just leave town. That's new information for me that we're not willing to look at other options or give me other information back.
When we
Is that
first-
something you're confident that they will not put any?
Well, that's what they indicated to Joseph and I when we first spoke with them. They actually wanted a hard surface parking lot ready for that. And that, like, they want to take Saywell Park. We said no. That's for other purposes.
If I could go out there with a measuring tape right now and see if we could do the turn, like pull in and comfortably turn around, I would vote the other way.
And I think in all fairness, in hindsight, if we had have had the traffic study done previous to the implementation or discussion of this, that may have appeased some of the issues that are brought forward today. But without that, we're going on assumptions again, and we all know what happens when we assume. It doesn't do anything for you or. I have Dalton, or Mr. Smith.
Mr.
And
Smith,
then Councillor Austin.
Yeah, just one more comment. Most of the traffic that we have is in the summertime. So the only problem with backing up, when it's so, if traffic is so full anyways, you have to go slow. In the wintertime, when you need to charge your vehicles more often, if you have electric truck or electric car, then there'll be less people in those stalls and there'll be less chance of, then you can probably make that turn pretty easy, I think. So you wouldn't have to back up. I mean, I really don't see the backing up problem for most of the time because we're just faced with heavy traffic. And we're happy to do that because we're attracting tourism.
No,
And one last thing, vehicles will go to Duncan and charge and spend the rest of the day in Duncan if they can't charge here. Particularly fast chargers, but the slow chargers, truly it's like 15 hours to charge a computer. So we will lose business.
Fair enough, thank you, Councillor Austin.
I was just gonna say, when we tell Hydro that we're just not happy with that particular option. Should we not say that we're in the process of getting a traffic study for that corner and that was our concern?
Well, we
I
can
mean,
most
that
certainly
can-
say anything to Hydro. I think their timeline is the implementation of this to get it done before winter, but if we had chosen not to go along with this option, I think they will look at a different community, which is totally their right to do, and we'll move forward from there. It's not to say that we wouldn't have a future opportunity,
Yeah, maybe not just this time.
but not with BC Hydro. Maybe with a test of fast charging station, for instance, that sort of thing. Councillor Sandwich.
So just through the staff, so when the other two went in, the towns, was that at a cost to the town?
That's really bad.
That was through grants.
Okay. So that motion has failed. If you want to inform BC Library that,
Okay, they'll be calm.
yes, I'm sure they will probably look at the video. Thank you all for that input. I appreciate that. No mayor's report.
Oh, we got Steve.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to see, that's the parking issues, et cetera, from Councillor Frisbee. My apologies.
Just for, in regards to 73 South Shore Road, which is the old hotel / doctor's office, has there been a business license given for that?
Yes.
There has?
I believe so. Hotel.
Next to Ed's. General Doctor's Office.
Yeah. On the renovation.
My concerns is they've taken out the parking in front of their building and put turf in there. And I think everyone's experienced just the 4 trades parking there. It's engrossing that whole area. Would there not be parking requirements for that hotel?
There will, yes.
And what are they going forward? Because there doesn't look like there's any plan.
Yeah, I think the superintendent of the day allowed that to happen. And so they made changes because that wasn't a hotel.
I know, but with if I may, if a business license lapses, which I'm sure it has on that property, we're under a new set of circumstances, the new business.
Yeah, or you mean a different company's taken over?
Well, just there's been a lapse in business license on that property. So when we go to submit a new, we go to approve a new business license, wouldn't parking be taken into account then?
Well, because you have to, the lapse has to be more than 6 months.
Which it was.
For the renovation.
Well, they weren't operating lunch. Well, my concern is they've set up 9 new units. 9 new units and taken away parking. So how do we like, I know that there's other businesses in town that have to pay for parking because they can't provide that parking. So how have we done that?
Well, I don't think any business pays it.
I know one of them.
That's only temporary.
It's temporary?
Well, you don't do it 12 months. on
Oh, you mean seasonal?
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry.
But if you know what I mean, so the new side we in front, we've got no parking, so we're talking about parking studies. This is one, this is the second one that's gonna cause more problems.
If I may just ask for clarification, previously when it was a microtel before the renovation, there was no on-site parking, it was still on the street.
Was the grass area that was, they could pull in there.
Was it
That was
parking?
phase,
Was it parking at the time?
Please
Yeah,
say.
it was.
So now they've utilized that as just green space?
Yeah.
Green space is in there, okay, and there's 9 units in there?
There's 9 units and some of them are 2 bedroom, so you're gonna get. You could potentially get 18.
Even if they create the grass into parking, I don't think it's gonna solve any problems.
It won't.
Because you still need the roadway to get in there, so either they park on the road or they park on the grass, I don't think.
And you're going with the sidewalk.
I just know that there's a letdown there of that whole area.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous that they've eliminated that. Put in the green space. I think I understand what you're talking about going down the side, which is fine. But there used to be 3 or 4 parking spots in front. I realize that with 9 units, it's not going to, but we're not gonna be a good situation, especially if the business license already approved. And to move on to piggyback on that, 75 South Shore Road is currently on the market and being marketed as an Airbnb property. It is zoned C3, so you're allowed to have a hotel there. Again, no parking. Is there a business license on 73 South Shore, 75 South Shore Road?
That's what has the license, not the other one.
They're both the same.
Are they the same owner, so?
They're not.
No,
Are they?
different.
Rules.
Because so with 75 South Shore Road, which is the one currently on the market, there is 0 parking. And they're also marketing themselves as an Airbnb for sales. So they've listed their property at 1.4 million and have given out revenue of $550 a night for their property. So that's public information now with 0 parking, like not even the driveway, there's 0 parking. So that whole area is going to become a problem area real quick. So I don't know if I guess my concerns is if there's no business license on either one of those properties, when there should be a business license, we need to look into parking. And I don't know what we can do about that motel, hotel, but that's going to be a big one too.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other input on that? Appreciate that. I'm sure we'll get clarification on both business licenses. I know the one property that you're speaking of was utilized as a rental portion prior to it going on the market. There is accommodation for 1 vehicle within that driveway, but that's it. And then the remainder of the adjacent property is also a short-term rental. So that block, as you say, is going to be problematic for vehicle access.
On that point, so short-term rental, they are both zoned for hotel use, so they are within their rights on the zoning to have it, but I'm guessing if it's an Airbnb or short-term, is that the same classification as a hotel?
Airbnb.
In my view, no. And therein lies part of the problem provincially on Airbnb accommodation within zoning.
Yeah.
And bending some of those rules within that portion. I think it's imperative that the province come down with language on Airbnbs and what the residents and the zoning portions should be within Airbnbs. For municipalities to chase all these Airbnbs, you have to be constantly looking on the web to see if you check out Cowichan Lake Airbnb, there's 138 listings within the area, whether it's Yubo or Sachi Lake, and none of them are allowed within the bylaw regulations. But they supersede that by utilizing similar language that you're stating, hotel, short-term rental. You are allowed bed and breakfast within some places. Within Point Ideal, for instance, and they're utilizing that as an Airbnb avenue as well. So,
And just further to that, I think, like, obviously that is one option, is to go on Airbnb and find out where these things are. But when I wouldn't say it's flaunting, but if it's in a public domain, the information is given out. I think that's the time where we should enforce. Because they are, they're giving their income also. So just to clarify, is the boutique going to be a business? Or is it going to be Airbnb? I guess it's got a business, I guess that's what clarification we're looking for.
Yeah, okay. We'll look for that clarification and staff will get back to you on that, on those 2 points. Anything further? So we are looking for mayor's report now. There is no mayor's report, but I want to thank you, Councillor Austin, for filling in for me in my absence and attending the signing of the First Nation interim treaty agreement. Yourself as well, Councillor Fitch, thank you. I was away, as I stated earlier, on the exchange to Otaki, Japan. It was 10 students and 7 adults that traveled to Otaki, which has been a sister city of the town of Lake Cowichan since 1989. It's one of the longest running sister city programs within British Columbia, if not Canada. And the implementation of that and continuation of that is top priority for both communities, I feel. There will be a return, smaller delegation coming at the end of September. 4 students and 3 adults. We're currently looking at how the homestay situation will be on that. The head of the delegation wishes to stay at the hotel. There's 1 student that will be staying in Duncan with a student that they had over in Otaki for 3 months. 1 will be staying with one of the members that attended our delegation going forward. So we're only looking for 3 homestays. I'm hoping that it can remain within the homestay program. So moving forward, we're going to look at how we can accommodate that small group and some programs that we look forward to implementing, whether it be ice skating and various other stuff that we've done. So just a heads up on that. And looking to Joseph to see if there has been any questions sent by email.
Nothing at all.
No questions, but if you do have something after you view the video, please feel free to send your inquiries to general@lakecowichan.ca. We have no in-person, we won't move to that. We'll look for a reason for going in camera. Let's look at this.
Yes. Section 92 of the community charter requires that before a meeting or part of a meeting is to be closed to the public, council must state by resolution why the meeting is to be closed. The basis on which the meeting is to be closed falls under the following sections of the community charter: labor relations and other employee relations, and section 91F, law enforcement.
We need a motion to go in camera on those 2 items. Moved by Councilor Frisbee, second by Councilor Austin. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Wait for the video to stop.
Are you off camera? Stop the video.